Hi guys, mabuhay! Welcome back to our channel. This is Efrain, your hardinerong kapitbahay. It's another day and another plan to discuss. Ano pang hinihintay mo? Tara, samahan mo ako at magkwentuhan tayo. Hi guys, mabuhay! Welcome back to our channel. This is Efrain, your hardinerong kapitbahay. Magandang araw mga kapuso, kapatid, kapamilya, at mga kapitbahay. Ornamental plants ranges from the smallest moss to the biggest fern trees that we can have it at home. But if you are living in a smaller area where there is a limited space, so it is just wise to get a smaller plants that are easy to maintain and grow indoors. One of these plants is called Syngonium Podophyllum. Well, of course, that's the word Syngonium Podophyllum is in general for the Syngonium. So, marami kasing klase ng Syngonium. But there are some variety, kumbaga, yung mga sinatawag nating variety or variant. This one is a Nguengi Laima. This is also known as the Ngern Lai Ma or silver holy. Okay? Yun yung kanyang pinakapangalan. And the good thing about this particular plant, it is actually fitted for a very small spaces in our house kasi hindi siya lumalaki ng malaking-malaki unlike with the other Syngoniums that we have. It maintains primarily the small leaves na meron tayo nito. And of course, aside from the fact that it is also vining. Okay? So you could easily keep this one in a smaller pots or container para doon natin siya maparami. Okay? So, this plant is an aroid of the Syngonium family, also known as the Arrowhead plant or Arrowhead vine. And as you can see, ang kanyang pinaka-leaves resembles doon sa pinaka-dulo ng arrow, which is actually sharp na parang pa-V-shape na makikita natin. Okay? Now, when juvenile, these plants will grow in a more bush-like formations like what we have right now. This is quite a juvenile one. Although, yung kanyang mga matured leaves, ganun din talaga yung kanyang max na size. Okay? So, when they get older, it will start now to vine or form now the vines. Well, we could also prohibit the vining and we could maintain the bushy structure of our plants by just cutting yung mga habang parts ng ating silver holly. Okay? Now, how fast this plants bind depends on the subspecies of the Syngonium. Well, in this case, this particular plant or the silver holly is quite medyo mabagal siya or quite slow in terms of the growth because of the structure ng kanyang chlorophyll. So as you can see, this one is small or this one is white in color with a tincture of some green structures dun sa kanyang pinaka sides. Okay? Now, the reason behind that is medyo less yung amount ng chlorophyll that will really support all those materials na kailangan ng ating plants katulad ng pagkain kasi nga hindi siya masyadong nagmamanufacture ng kanyang pagkain. That's why the Syngonium Podophyllum has different needs also from the other things. But before that, let us visit now the structure of this particular plant. So, as you can see, the stems of this Syngonium is actually green or ranges from green to reddish in color. Okay? It is quite parang siyang fleshy type. Okay? Yan yung kanyang pinaka-structure. And on the underneath niya, para siyang light green. Yung pinaka sa ilalim ng kanyang dahon, light green. And I think if this one is already exposed ng konti sa bright light condition, you will be able to notice na meron siyang coloration ng may pagka-reddish ng konti. Okay? So, let us try now to visit naman yung kanyang mga o yung kanyang roots. Actually, if you're going to notice, yan, this is actually an outgrowth of roots already that is coming out from the container niya na plastic. So, I have already bought this one. Siguro mga around 1 to 2 months already. Pero as you can see, ito pa lamang yung kanyang makikitang growth. And I think it is best for us to transfer this particular plant or this Syngonium to another pot because lumalabas na yung ating tinatawag na roots here. Okay, yung kanyang root system yun dito. But don't worry, I am not going to use this pots. I'm just going to put this one, yung kanyang pinaka substrate na ginamit nung gardener or nung binilhan ko ng aking halaman. Okay, so because this Syngonium really needs something that is actually a fast draining soil that retains the moisture. Although as you can see, yung rice husk, it is just enough. This is actually a cheap source of substrates ng mga gardener, kung saan hindi sila masyadong gumagastos sa kanilang mga soil. And it is actually, aside from being cheap, madali din kasing mag-grow yung root system ng ating mga plants katulad ng Syngonium, kasi medyo airy o kaya naman ibuhaghag yung ating pinaka-plant. Okay? So, as you can see here, yan, papasin natin dito. Teka lang, tagalin ko lang yung konti yung roots niya. As you can see here, very wide na yung distributions ng kanyang roots. Okay, as you can see. So, napaka-healthy na ng kanyang roots dito because of the areas kung saan the substrate is actually free. Pwede siyang kahit saan pumunta. Okay, kung mapapasin ninyo. Okay, pagpag natin ng konti. So, this is actually the root system. This, one thing about the Syngonium, like this one, ang maganda rito is, it actually established first yung kanyang root system doon sa kanyang pinaka-substrate o doon sa kanyang pinaka-soil. In-establish niya muna bago siya dumadami or lumalago. And as you can see, yung kanyang circumference o yung pinakalaki o lawak ng pinakadahon niya, halos ganun din kalaki or kalawak yung kino-occupy ng kanyang mga roots. Okay, so ganun siya. The roots is not actually this one is a fibrous type of roots na kung saan mas matindi yung or it is really has a good anchor doon sa or to the soil itself. Okay, that's why this plant is easy to be put in a fast draining soil that it also maintains the moisture of the substrate, which is quite similar with the rice hull itself. So that's one thing about this particular plant. So to mimic or to copy yung ating substrate, what am I going to use now is a substrate that is a combination primarily of this particular substrate or soil. This one is composed primarily of some coco coir and some pumice rocks. Although hindi masyado yung kanyang pumice, but definitely it retains the moisture of the or it really increases the drainage of the plant or of the soil itself. Okay, that's why it's also nice to have this particular type of soil medium. Aside from the fact that the coco husk or the coco coir can be a good it's actually a good material to increase the absorption of moisture or to maintain the moisture of the soil. Okay, that's why if I were you, I'd rather invest some of my materials in producing or in making such particular or such soil substrate para sa ating mga plants, because a good type of substrate may also result to a well nourished and healthy type of soil. Okay, so this one, so mapapansin natin, this is actually my substrate now that I'm going to use, and I'm going to put this plant in here. Now as you can see, hindi ko na masyadong tatanggalin yung mga nakadikit na rice husk. The reason behind that is actually I'm not going to prevent myself from hurting or cutting or removing some of the anchorage doon sa ating soil, so that the plant itself can be easily recovered. Okay, now aside from that, as you can see, this particular plant is actually tatlo na yung kanyang pinaka plant itself. So one way of propagating this one, if you are not going to make it more or if you're going to propagate the plant itself, you could have this plant propagated by dividing the plant itself. Okay, in that case you will be able to come up with more plants of this one. Although sabi nga natin kanina, this plant is actually a slow grower type of Syngonium. So medyo matagal siyang lumaki. Okay? So that's the reason why we have to really put this one doon sa ating mga, or we have to really look into or be patient in terms of how it will grow and gaano siya kabagal dumami or lumaki. Okay? So, yung mga smaller type nito, definitely, wag na tayong mainip, kumbaga. So, if our goal is just to keep this plant in an area where there are less amount of lights, that will be fine. Okay? Kung hindi naman tayo nagmamadali na nag-aalaga ng ating Syngonium, because this plant is actually a rewarding type, especially if you are willing to be patient when it produces additional plantlets. Okay? Now, in terms of the watering, this particular Syngonium is a moderate watering is required for this particular Syngonium type. Okay? When I say moderate watering, hindi siya nangangailangan ng araw-araw, especially if you're going to put this one indoor. Okay? Kung ilalagay mo ito sa loob ng iyong bahay, well, it does not require you to water this plant every day. The reason behind that is it really maintains the amount of moisture. And another thing about this one is we have to maintain, syempre, na yung less amount of water din, kasi once this one is actually being filled or absorbed yung kanyang mga tubig, the tendency of that is it will introduce root rotting doon sa kanyang pinaka roots itself. And syempre matutunaw yung roots as well as yung kanyang mga stems. And we don't want that to happen with this particular Syngonium. Okay? Now, how about the humidity? They can handle, or this plant can handle yung lower amount of humidity. But like this Syngonium, since na ang ating specimen now is a variegated type, I would say variegated type kasi halos wala siyang color green, this plant requires at least 50% to keep those lovely variations. Ibig sabihin, 50% of the humidity should be maintained dito sa ating Syngonium. Bakit? Kasi syempre, nangangailangan siya ng water pero hindi naman siya pwedeng nakababad sa tubig. And that is one thing that we have to look in growing this part or this type of Syngonium that is quite variegated. Now, since na less amount yung kanyang yung kanyang green pigment sa ating plants, this plant is actually prefer lots of indirect sunlight. Sabihin ng indirect sunlight, hindi mo siya isa-subject dyan sa ating o sa labas ng ating bahay. Which means to say, this plant is a good plant for indoor, or if you really want this plant to be outdoor, we have to put it sa ilalim ng mga shrub type ng ating na plant, katulad ng rubber tree, o kaya naman ay pwede natin siyang ilagay sa ilalim ng mga malalaki or bushy type ng plant, whereas it only keeps the direct sunlight from hurting the plant itself. Okay? Because if you keep Syngoniums away from the direct sunlight, or the non-green parts will get brown. So, ibig sabihin, mag-undergo siya ng natawag nating, syempre, yung sunburn, kumbaga. Okay? Sunburn, maybe, pwedeng mangyari ay mag-turn ng brown yung ating pinaka-Syngonium. Okay? Now, this also increases the difficulty level of managing this plant for the beginner because of the difference or because of the variegations ng ating Syngonium o yung kaibahan niya ng kulay. Okay? That's actually one thing that we have to look into. But anyway, I still recommend it to you that to keep this inside your house kasi magandang klase ng halaman ito because this plant is also one of those material na pinag-aralan ng NASA kung saan it could really change the air condition in our house. It could really purify the air inside our house. Ini-eliminate niya yung mga toxin or yung poisonous type ng gases na napo-form sa mga materials natin sa labas sa loob ng ating bahay, katulad ng yung mga chlorofluorocarbon, yung CFCs, o kaya naman yung mga paints, mga gano'n. So that is actually releasing some gas that is actually bad to our health. Okay? So that is the reason why we are giving this as an opportunity para makita natin yung pangangailangan natin to keep some plants in our house. Also, what are those things that you might be able to encounter as part of their problem pag inaalagaan natin to? You might be able to notice na meron tayong brown brownish or color doon sa ating mga tips ng ating dahon. Okay? Well, actually, this is actually an indication na it is actually less amount or it could be a more amount of water doon sa ating substrate. That's also the reason why I changed my substrate kasi it is difficult for me to determine kung basa ba yung aking substrate o hindi kasi yung rice husk maaari siyang tuyo sa ibabaw pero sa ilalim ay basa. So the tendency of me now is to put some water with my Syngonium. So that's the reason why you will be able to notice na meron siyang coloration na brown doon sa pinaka-tip ng aking dalawang dahon ng aking Syngonium. Maybe because too much amount of water yung nangyari sa kanya. Or possible din naman, another reason is baka kulang yung aking tubig na nilalagay sa kanya. So it's really hard for me to determine by just testing or looking into the rice hull o yung kanyang substrate kanina. Okay? So, I think that's all, folks. You're watching Planting with F and Grace. Please watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, if you have some comments, suggestions, or stories to share about our featured plant now, well, we encourage you to please put a comment to the comment box, and we really love to hear from you, and we really love to answer some of the questions and share our experiences in sa pag-aalaga ng ating Syngonium. Okay? And also, please, you may also add your FB page, si Maria Gracia at ang Lihim na Hardin. Okay? So, see you again next time for another fruitful time to study and talk about the plants. And thank you and goodbye!
September we met, I could tell by your smile. You hadn't been with a good girl like me in a while. Yeah, you were impressed, couldn't leave me alone. Text me every time that you pick up the phone. And I had control in the driver's seat, but my hands are slipping off the wheel. Now the tables have turned, now I'm up all night. I'm picturing